Hello everybody. Or at least at the beginning it's always just hello me. But hello everyone. Welcome to me inking Blue Orchid. Page, this is number 2, page 2 of Blue Orchid chapter 4. So go to the description, you can see the links to everything Blue Orchid. So if you want to buy any Blue Orchid comics or anything like that, so that's where you can go do it. But today, this issue won't be available probably for a while, a little while. Just I'm still drawing it. So, takes me about a month or so at this stage, so maybe 2 months the comic will be out. You can read Blue Orchid, chapter 4. Quite a broken panel there. This is the early stages of inking. First thing I always do is, generally the first thing, the last page I did, if anybody is actually watching this again, the last page I actually did this about halfway through because I actually forgot, but that happens a lot when it's a one-page thing. Hey, ARX01K, how's it going? A lot of broken panels in this page. Seem to do that. I love breaking panels. It's a pain when you're inking, but I love doing it as far as adds to the story. I think it looks cool. I am just using a standard Sharpie, making this part. It's a regular Sharpie marker. Some people use different things. This is my tool of choice for this type of thing. Try to figure out which way is the best way to. I don't have the largest drawing table in the world, so I always have to sort of figure out which way. And oddly enough, I always try to want to make sure you guys can see it okay. Sure to like and subscribe, say hello, all that stuff that people ask you to do. Thanks, that's awesome. Thanks for the compliment. If you like more of my stuff, I got comics. There you go. pull those out every once in a while. Thanks for the compliment, though. So, as I do, there we go. Got the panels done. The next thing I do is I tend to draw the organic parts, and that involves a brush pen. Got my handy Pentel Japanese brush pen. A couple of lines here. It's starting to run a little low, but I think it's okay. So I got this giant crab creature that I'm doing. The other thing I tend to do, I'm actually really sweaty. I've been busy all, where I am right now, it's afternoon, but I've been pretty busy working on stuff around the house, and so I'm a little sweaty, so. Apologies if you say hello or you drop a message and I don't respond immediately, because I am not looking at the screen all the time. I have a second screen over there that I'm watching this on. But I can't watch it all the time because I'm actually drawing. So I kind of have to pay attention to what I'm drawing and not so much on the screen. I guess if I was doing this on Procreate, I could pay attention to the screen better, but then I don't think, can you live stream on Procreate? If anybody out there knows how to live stream on Procreate, let me know. That would be kind of neat. Got a couple of illustration sort of job things that I've got to do, and I'm doing them on Procreate. And unfortunately, if that's the case, other than just sort of pointing my camera at Procreate while I draw, I can't share them with you guys. So if there's a way to do that, let me know, because I'd be curious. If anybody knows how to do that without having to like just point a camera at Procreate at your tablet, because I don't really feel like that'd be kind of boring. It really wouldn't show up well. Anybody says hello, tell me maybe where you are in the world. 3 people tell me where they are on this live stream. I will tell you where I am. And I'll give you a clue, I am not in North America. So, 3 people, that's all it takes. See, I made an error. This is interesting. We'll see how that works out. This will be I try not to make too many mistakes when I'm drawing, but there's one right there. I accidentally put my line in. Thought that was a break, but in fact it was a claw. It's okay though. Fixable. Liquid paper's for. Or Photoshop. So I do use liquid paper, and I actually do Photoshop things, and I have different reasons for doing different things, so depending on what I choose. So I can show you from yesterday's page, from last time's page. So this is a page I did, my last page that I did. And as you can see, there's like a gray tone on it. And the gray tone is sort of, I just give it, I do my shadows using pencil. And so if I need to tone over what I'm going to do, I can't really use liquid paper because it doesn't really, the pencil doesn't stick to the liquid paper. So in that particular case, I will Photoshop out the mistake. So in this case, there's a little blob of black in the claw there. I will, I'm probably gonna add tone to that, so I probably will just Photoshop that little black blob out as opposed to cleaning it up, as opposed to liquid papering it and then adding the tone, because I can't. It's that simple. You just can't add tone. Can't add like a pencil tone on top of liquid paper. It just doesn't stick. So. gonna be a long inking day today. A lot of little stuff here. So far, I have not streamed me adding the tones, only because it tends to be a bit of a warm-up for me. And I trust me, there's no like secret or something like I'm like, oh, I'm ashamed of how I do it. I literally just take the side of this pencil that I really like and tone it. The main reason I don't show it is I think it's boring. If anybody out there wants me to show them, I will even show you like personally. I will set up a chat with you, and you can watch me do. So I don't tend to like show it off that much. So a lot of people ask me about this little piece of paper, and it's just so my hands don't smudge my drawing, and I can move my hand around without smudging. I tend to get kind of sweaty when I'm inking. I actually don't like. I mean, I like inking. I hate it. I don't think I'm very good at it, but I do it because it has to get done. The beauty of doing indie comics is that whether you like doing it or not, most any indie comic artist I've talked to has said that their least favorite part of doing a comic book is formatting it and putting it up for sale. And I would agree with that. That is the worst part of making comic books. You just don't really want to do that stuff. It's difficult and all that. But for me, the second worst thing is definitely inking. Never been confident with my inking. People say you should put music on in these things. I don't object to music, but I feel like I just have enough devices going at the same time already. I just don't need another device playing music. Good, and I would not pay attention to you guys that are in the chat at all. I wouldn't look over once. If I was listening to music, I'd just be distracted by that. Or I like to listen to podcasts more anyway, and I don't know the legality of that. If I listen to a podcast, because the sound will get through, I mean, I guess I could listen to it in earbuds, but then I'm definitely not paying attention to anybody who's actually spent the time to come see me and say a few words, and so I feel doubly sort of like I'm ignoring people. It's all weird. Oh, is YouTube like, is this the best streaming device? Is this the best way for me to be doing this? I get a few people here and there, but not many. Again, it's not that I need them. I'm going to be doing this anyway. I guess the only difference was I'd be listening to some music or something instead of sitting here in silence. I do feel like I'm not totally upset that I never get many people watching. I also know that I'm doing this at a weird time for many people around the world. So sort of early morning for many people. It's weird the decisions you have to make when you're drawing. I can get into that forever. See, decisions you make when you're drawing. Would be a good autobiography title. Not for me, but in general. So you notice I don't do all the details on the crab, just the basic outline and basic shape. Shall I do with a fine liner? I'll do that later. This was a tough drawing, remember. I don't mess it up too badly with the inking. I didn't really visualize when I designed this crab monster, I didn't really think about having to draw him from above. But then in the story, it's kind of worked out best to have him viewed from above, so did what I could here. I cheated him a little, not quite accurate. That's okay though. You don't have to be accurate, you just have to be visually interesting. Look at that, smudging up my paper. I'm like the master of smudging. Why the hell I chose to ink my comic book, I have no idea. Why I chose brush pen. I do, so like the continuity reason or the story reason I choose brush pen for inking this part of my comic is I do all organic shapes with a brush. Hey, thanks. Evie is cute. Is that your name just because you want people to, is your name Evie and you want people just to say Evie is cute? If it is, that's ridiculously clever. Let me change my name to Chris's. Chris is a smart and talented guy. And when I go in chat rooms, people say, hey, Chris is a smart and talented guy. I go, how did you know? Very brilliant if your name is Evie. Once in a while I do this. It's a shot of the Blue Orchid. This is my main character. I really just roughed her in, really roughly. Drawn her much more detail in the past. I feel like I just thought to myself, future inking self will figure it all out. So here I am trying to figure it out. Going okay. I did okay for myself. Yeah, it's not bad. So again, anybody out there, where are you right now? You don't tell me exactly your address, but country, what's city maybe? Go as far as city. Where is he right now? 3 people answer that question. I will tell you where I am. Or 5 people like you is cute. Say that I'm so talented, maybe I'll do it. I'll tell you where I am. Hey, maybe you're a talented person too. In the comments, drop your webpage. I'd love to check it out. Do a podcast with a friend and talk to artists all the time. Maybe we'll can arrange a illustration. If you do a comic book, generally tend to talk to comic book creators. It's our thing. So if you do that, let me know. So small. If I was smart, I would use a thinner brush, but I've committed already, so I'm not going to change. That's the artist's laziness. That is something. Let's talk. I did an interview with Brendan McCarthy. Unfamiliar with him. He did the design work for Mad Max Fury Road. Amazingly talented artist. But we're talking about equipment you use to draw. He's saying he just takes whatever's there. I like that. You don't choose your brushes, you just use whatever brushes are around. I use whatever brushes in my hand. Which again, I've said at the beginning, some kind of Pentel brush pen thing. I like these brush pen things rather than dipping, just because I'm constant dipping in ink. It's kind of a pain. The difficulty in these, of course, is finding refills when you need them. But with this one, I'm fairly lucky, and every time I do find refills for it, I buy a few. I tend to go through a couple of refills every comic. I probably have like a couple of dozen refills sitting and waiting. So I also, I tend to only use this for comic books or big illustrations. I use these Pigma brush pens for detail work on this. I'll use it, you'll see later on, I'll use this, but also for sketchbooks type stuff or quick illustrations, small illustrations particularly, like sometimes even it's just, you know, I'm doing an illustration for a client that's a smallish one. I do commissions if you really want, but I'll be quite honest, it's very difficult because I don't live in a place where many people live, and shipping is a pain. So I'm also busy a lot of the time. And so I find I can't really commit to doing drawings for people because I just end up disappointing. Just depending on the job. Obviously, if you're paying me, I will draw what you need, but client is asking me to do animation work or a big project, and I have to stop doing commissions. Never sure if the numbers are accurate for YouTube videos as well. And I mean that in all directions. Whether there's more people watching than I realize or fewer. Mr. Smutty Fingers. That's what I nicknamed myself. It's a bit of a racer dunk. So after I finish drawing this, I let it dry. And then tomorrow, the first things I will do is take an eraser to this, erase all the lines that I left behind. And I might touch it up a little bit more. I also leave this on my table and I'll walk by it and be like, oh my God, that's just horrible. And I gotta fix that and this and that. So I'm gonna do something I don't normally do. This is a thing I definitely don't normally do. I got some lettering in here. Normally I do lettering digitally because my handwriting is horrible, but every so often I like to have something really sort of rough and tumble looking, and the word crash here seems appropriate. I want to ink this now, so I'm going to ink the balloon in. And I just want to make sure I don't, much like that claw on the top of this page, ink over some of this writing. Well, the good thing about this writing is that that's something I could liquid paper because I will not be put tones on my writing. Well, that sounds like an interesting idea. So I'm going to ink these cloudy things, this crash with my brush pen, but I think it'll look cool, stand out a little. But after that, I will stop inking with this brush pen and move on to my Pigma Micron. When I do that, I use various different sizes. I start with another Sharpie product, the Sharpie pens, and then I just go bigger and bigger. And that is what I will do this one too. And it takes me about an hour or so to do a page, depending on the size. This one's not too bad. It's got a lot going on, but it's not too many buildings and stuff that are in great detail. Most of the buildings I have here are fairly low detail because it's a big fight scene. I don't want people looking at the details of the buildings and the fight scene. I want them to be looking at the fight. So. Now you might notice that my inks, my blues, my pencils, I don't go regular pencil ever. I always just go blue. Most artists go blue, then they go over with regular pencil. I don't tend to do that. I tend to just use blue pencil. And the reason I do that, it's weird. It's like kind of leaning towards stopping doing that and getting back to regular pencils. But I find blue pencils, A, don't smudge, and as you you've heard me talk about the last little while, smudging is like my nemesis. But as well, they don't photograph probably, or that much. You can blow it out pretty easily. Get rid of the blue pencils when you're photographing it, which is what I do with my pages. Most people scan them, I photograph my pages with a full, with a camera, because I like the look of I like the texture of the paper to show. So that's it. That's the organic stuff with the brush pen. I'll leave my brush pen out because I might still use it, but now I'm moving on to the Sharpie pen, which I have a ton of these things. These are another thing that like I love, and every once in a while they're really hard to find. Place I most commonly see them is at like office supply stores in North America. The other thing you'll notice maybe is I do not use rulers. And that is also a purpose, because I want things to kind of look a little lived in, broken. So I tend to avoid using rulers. Instead, just use my pen, and then I'm trailing off because I'm concentrating. It's just sad. Once I get this stuff in, what I tend to do is just that line a little more. Also, don't draw my cars with too much realism. I think it's not necessary. I like a good cartoony looking car. My big influence for how I draw my vehicles and how I even draw my characters, secondary characters, so the background people in my comics is Powerpuff Girls. Probably one of the best animated shows on TV. But the gang at Powerpuff Girls always used to, I loved the way they drew the vehicles and the people. Just these sort of, sometimes they would just be these blobs, nothingness. I kind of like that because I always felt like it was like they didn't give importance to the townspeople. They were just nothing blobs, and I don't know if that's like a saying about like an expression or whether just a way to make sure your main character's popped, but it's something kind of, it does sort of both of those things. It sort of talks about, makes your background characters less important. Oh my goodness, I forgot to ink something. Good thing. It's a good thing I kept this pen handy. Got to ink the crab's other feet here. This is only my first pass at fine line stuff. If you're watching the video before, you know that I will take a different size pens to this afterwards. Just break it apart a little bit. This is the first pass, just to get an idea of what I want to do later. I haven't really decided. I have some ideas. I have basic rules I follow, but not specifics. I'm adding some of the fun, crabby texture. And I originally thought of doing this using the brush pen because this is sort of supposed to be used. Crabs are organic, but I just found that doing this with a pen made it look a little more interesting. So if you're watching this and you're like, I don't want to sit here and watch this guy draw for a whole hour, that's crazy. I tend to agree with you, that is crazy. You can also watch these. I do repost them, the whole thing in its entirety. You can fast forward and go through anything you like and see what happened. But I also turn these into little time lapses, so it turns this entire drawing session into one minute. So feel free to watch that too if you like. interesting admission. I'm always terrified that had a weird drawing choice there. Fix it up. So for some reason, do this kind of cool detailed building. I'm not shaking the camera too much, sorry. Rather than draw it through, makes more sense visually. Doing this with a regular pencil because makes more sense. Looks cooler. Gives it more dimension. Who doesn't like more dimension? It's all about making decisions. My change as you go. So like originally this building was just flush with those back buildings, but now I realize it's just so much better. Just popped out just a little bit. It's all the difference in the world. I have a little crack in the pavement. I'm actually going to just do that. Just freehand it. A little bigger. Totally works. The little thing I invented on the first issue, even. I just made this like trails of superpowerness for her, my main character. I kind of dig it. to make my, I like characters with goop coming off of them, like water and stuff. And this is this weird thing that I created early on, which is to make her look powerful. Or she's flying or moving quick. So at this point, for the crowd, I want them to move a lot, so I'm gonna add some motion lines. I'm gonna use these smaller brush pen. Actually, the legs are kind of skirting all over too. Just sort of a bit of chaos of movement. That's a good thing for a man, wouldn't you say? So, the other thing that water lets you do when you're drawing is create a sense of movement. I talked about this in my podcast called Geek Shop, and I often talk about the fact that I feel, and this is my controversial opinion, that capes are the dumbest piece of apparel that any superhero could possibly have. They're so silly if you think about it. Like, cape would pretty much destroy you in any fight. Notice you never see like martial artists wearing capes. So I've always sort of believed that it's pointless to have a cape when you're fighting, but what it does do is it gives you a sense of directionalness. I find water does that too. Because you can see the water coming off of him. And here's a spoiler. There's two monsters she fights in this. There's a crab monster and then a water monster. But I use her hair as well as a directional device and this little scarf. This belty scarf thing is totally pointless. She's never used it in a battle, but man, it makes drawing her moving really easy. So, little tip. And I've heard that the creators of Superman, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, that is one of the reasons they gave him the cape. Was because it made it really, when he would fly, it would make it really, like he would really look like he was flying. Because again, if you ask a expert martial artist, any that I've known, and talked to a few in my life, if you ask them, so would you ever fight in a cape? They would be like, why in the world would you do that? Pretty much just giving your opponents a weapon. But it works as a mechanism for directionality. So if you have a character that flies, you always know which way they're flying based on their cape. I think there was a Ren and Stimpy character that flew backwards, and the only reason that worked is because the character had a cape that would go the wrong direction. So if you didn't have that, it would just look weird. One of those little speed line things. I'm gonna just come here with my brush. Quiet today. Is there a holiday, snowstorm, something I don't know about? Again, not that I mind. I appreciate everybody who is here. Don't feel the need to have a huge amount of people. Just always curious when there isn't more people. In fact, I feel like I had too many people. This would be weird. I'd heard that the guys from Image used to talk to each other on the phone when they were drawing. I guess streaming is like the modern randomly calling up a friend and talking to them when you're drawing because you want something to. Because the one thing you can do while you're drawing, because I've been yammering this entire time, you can talk. It doesn't really ruin your concentration that much. In drawing respect, I don't think I've ever made a mistake because I was talking. There are certain times that I don't talk or listen to music when I'm drawing, but it's more rare than you'd think. This entire panel is just filled with special effects. There's no, I don't think there's a single character in it. It's Blue Orchid crashing into a wall. She's already crashed into it. So it's mostly just her speed lines and big cloud of crashiness and some background. So weird. I think I do too many panels like this. Seems like I'm cheating.